hickory, hemlock, cottonwood, oak. Their names echo softly through our minds, these old companions that mark the seasons of a lifetime. Our world would not be the same without them, yet most of us know little of their lives, their history, their being. Trees are the tallest, the largest, and the oldest living things on Earth. Trees nurture our spirit, provide sustenance, sanctuary, and shelter. No other form of life affects the rhythm of our lives more than trees. The great forests of Earth veil our planet with a living tapestry, a tapestry vital to our very existence.
Few are altogether deaf to the preaching of pine trees. Their sermons on the mountains go to our hearts. And if people in general could be got into the woods, even for once, to hear the trees speak for themselves, all difficulties in the way of the forest preservation would vanish. John Muir, 1896.
There's one place on Earth where the trees have more to say than anywhere else. Remains vibrant and alive. Young seedlings venture forth to share this brutal terrain with their ancient brethren. Throughout most of recorded history, the boughs of these ancient survivors have bent to the winds of time. Sculpted by the winds of 40 centuries, these tenacious trees are a symbol of resilience and beauty. The bristlecone pine embodies the strength and dignity of all trees, Standing twisted yet stately, these sentinels of time have survived to become the oldest known living things on Earth. These primal forests are dominated by magnificent evergreens, Douglas fir, and western hemlock. Dr. Franklin's 35 years of research has changed our basic understanding of how forests work.
There's a big old Douglas fir tree here. This tree is about 6 feet in diameter, probably around 250 feet tall, and it's probably about 500 years old. A living tree like this provides a lot of different functions in the forest. It provides a home for a lot of different kinds of organisms. It's doing a lot of productivity, it's doing a lot of photosynthesis, so it's a source of energy for the ecosystem. One of the interesting things about the big old tree is, of course, eventually it dies. And what we find is that a tree, when it dies in one of these ecosystems, probably has as many functions to fulfill in the dead form as it did in the live form.
In the pristine old-growth forests of North America, one finds the remains of dead trees covering much of the forest floor. These downed logs return vital nutrients to the soil, completing a cycle that for some began 1,000 years ago.
One of the very important functions of these standing dead trees is the wildlife habitat that they provide. And you can see in this tree that there's been a lot of birds, woodpeckers of some kind, working, excavating parts of this tree in their search for food.
usually at this early stage of shaping the arch that I get a sense of what kind of material I'm working with, get a feel for the hardness of the wood and what kind of acoustical properties it might have, and make a lot of decisions at this stage in the final shape of the arch.
After aging 5 to 10 years, some of Bruce Harvey's tone wood finds its way to the workshop of Thomas Crowan. Tom has handcrafted concert-quality violins and violas for many years.
This piece of wood is a very nice piece of spruce. It's quite old, and it has all the factors that I'm looking for: good strength and flexibility, and it's lightweight. We use such a small portion of the tree. A friend of mine said it's the filet mignon of the tree. Now I'm making a tool that somebody else is going to use to make music with, and it's a great feeling to hear an instrument that you've made played.
Tom has seen his dream fulfilled by several members of the Turtle Island String Quartet.
There is a spiritual corollary to the way we are currently deforesting and denaturing our planet. In the end, what we must most defoliate and deprive is ourselves. John Fowles, 1979.
It was gifts from the forest that lured many early settlers to North America. They saw the great American forests as limitless and paid little heed to the path of destruction left behind in their frenetic drive west. The first timber to fall were the tallest, straightest trees to grace the Atlantic coast. These trees sailed the seas as the masts of merchantmen and ships of war. Much of the eastern forest were cleared for farmland. Beyond the needs of agriculture was an endless appetite for firewood. An area over 200,000 square miles soon fell to the axe. Farming continued to consume millions of acres of America's virgin forests. Railroads devoured timber for track ties. As the great American frontier expanded, cities and towns consumed much of the woodlands as well. Steady growth continued until the Depression years of the 1930s. When demand rebounded during the post-war boom years, loggers began to rely on a newer and more destructive method of harvest: clear-cutting.
From a forestry standpoint, from the standpoint of wood production, it's probably a very effective one at getting new forest back that will grow very rapidly and produce a lot of wood fiber. It's the only practice we've used in any significant amount.
In the face of clear cutting, Dr. Franklin is concerned about maintaining our forests as habitat, watershed, and a source of fresh air. How to balance the continuing need for lumber and timberland jobs with today's environmental values has been a challenging question for Jerry Franklin.
I was raised in this country, and my dad was a worker in a pulp and paper mill. What happened during my dad's life was that he saw a major change occur from the early days when these forests seemed to be pretty much an inexhaustible resource to, in the last couple of decades, a realization that almost all of these natural forests are going to be cut down unless we change what we're doing. And even though his whole livelihood was the wood products industry, he came to be a strong supporter of both maintaining some of the old growth and of altering forest practices so as to maintain more of those values even on the commodity or cutover lands.
The tree, which moves some to tears of joy, is in the eyes of others only a green thing that stands in the way. Some see nature all ridicule and deformity, and some scarce see nature at all. But to the eyes of the man of imagination, nature is imagination itself. William Blake, 1799.
Imagination often leads us to special forests. Forests that have been set aside in an attempt to preserve some last vestige of pristine nature. These sanctuaries have become America's national parks. Embodied in these preserves is the beauty of our broad land. While only a few of America's great parks can rightly be called wilderness, each in its own way offers a glimpse of an essential and primal vision of our Earth. Trees stand at the very heart of that vision. the changes, a sparkling diversity remains. The grand diversity of the Everglades and Big Cypress stirs the imagination. Enchanted by its mystery is wildlife biologist John Ogden.
It's a system that's hard to come to know. It looks simple, it's flat, and yet the complexity of the old natural Everglades is so exciting. It's a thing of beauty. It's a remarkable story of the way nature works. And coming to understand the system and the complexity of it just increases the wonder and the amazement and the love for the place.
As a park biologist, John Ogden must manage an endless list of administrative tasks. Like many of us, he tries to balance his official responsibilities with personal time. Time spent in an environment he loves.
I've spent far, far more time during these 25 years in meetings and conferences and dealing with the issues than I have out in the country. But I have spent a great deal of time in the Everglades. I've spent many nights, thousands of days out in this wetland, and those are the memories that I carry with me. The meetings all run together in a blur, and what we accomplish at each meeting sometimes seems infinitesimal. And so I tend to forget those. But crystal clear in my mind are days that I first went into big rookeries in the 1960s, when I first encountered a crocodile on a trail in a dense hardwood hammock, sleeping in a hammock in the middle of the Everglades, surrounded by a million mosquitoes in the middle of the night, all looking for a crack in the mosquito netting. These are the memories I have, and this is the Everglades.
On the other side of our continent stands a forest like no other. Born of sand and stone, the saguaro forest lives in the Great Sonoran Desert.
There's a lot of life out here. It's very much alive. Even in the plants, because we think of like the saguaro as a person. It's a living thing. Even the earth is, my grandfather used to say was a person.
Danny Lopez is a storyteller of the Tohono O'odham Nation. These desert people make their home in this uncompromising saguaro forest. According to ancient legend, the giant saguaro cactus sprang forth from the tears of a child, forsaken by her mother. Whatever its origin, the saguaro is a cactus become tree. When undisturbed, the great saguaro can live nearly 300 years. The greatest challenge facing these silent sentinels may not come from the saguaro's harsh environment. As desert cities expand, these great trees face an uncertain future.
For me, it would be just like losing someone in my family because it's something we're so used to. We ask for well-being, for strength. If we couldn't do that and we couldn't see our person, I would be very saddened if that ever happened in my lifetime.
Not exclusive to winter. New forests are often born of cataclysmic events. The trauma of fire is part of the rhythm, renewal, and rebirth of the forest. Even though fire is a natural process, many feel the loss of any forest is a difficult loss. One of our great American forests lived through such a loss.
Yellowstone received a jolt of prehistoric proportions in 1988. Certainly the fires disrupted social and economic factors, but ecologically, nothing bad went on here, nothing good, it just was.
John Varley experienced the Yellowstone fires as Chief of Research for the National Park. Today, the natural mosaic of Yellowstone has greatly changed.
If we walked into the Sistine Chapel.
The emotions aroused in us by trees are as natural as the trees themselves. Trees, even younger ones, become symbols of resilience and strength. Trees are one of the few forms of life that often outlive us, and as a result, those of us who are truly aware of trees stand in awe.
The old growth forests in this country are just like any of the other legacies that we have. Whether it's the thermal features of the Yellowstone or the Great Grand Canyon or the Valley of the Yosemite, these old growth forests are part of our historical, cultural, and biological legacy in this country.
America's national parks are wondrous places where one can enjoy trees never imagined. But a park visit is a rare event for many. Most of us live in cities where the only trees we are likely to appreciate are those we can find in our own backyard. Fortunately, most American cities have special parks where a personal celebration of trees can be realized. These parks and the thousands of trees scattered throughout private gardens and public streets are in fact urban forests. Urban forests are essential to the health of our cities. Trees temper city weather, making urban life more livable. The unfortunate loss of forest worldwide has triggered a general awareness of the importance of trees. Many people now realize the responsibility for reforesting the nation and the world ultimately falls to the individual.
Thank you.